Hello everyone, this is Mumbo here, welcome back, and today we're back on the Hermitcraft server. It is episode 23 and we're currently over here at the Quad Witch Huts, ready to start recording another video. Now if you haven't seen this place before, you were probably wondering what on earth is going on, but in the previous episode, me and 3 of my buddies from the Hermitcraft server got together and we managed to create all of these witch huts here. Now if you didn't see the previous episode, you actually missed out on a really important piece of information, and that is the fact that we've got a new hermit on the server. His name is Impulse SV. If you haven't heard of him before, I would highly suggest checking him out because he's a technical player like myself, and like I say, he came straight on here and he constructed a witch hut. So here we are. We have now got 4 witch farms. They are all going to be connected up. All of the drops are going to come together and we're going to have absolutely tons upon tons of items, and I'm extremely excited for us to get that up and running. But before we do that, because we aren't actually going to be working on any of that in today's episode, I have got an extremely exciting announcement to make. Some of you will have noticed this, but in the past couple of days, I hit 500,000 subscribers. Now that is an astronomically large number. I can't quite process it myself, and sadly it came around far too quickly for me to be able to gather up some form of special video, so instead I've done a mini special and we'll take a look at that now. I do just want to issue a little bit of a warning. I have no idea what this is going to look like on YouTube. It could look an absolute mess due to YouTube compressing the videos and things, but anyway, what I've got in front of us is a 707 by 707 square. Now that gives an area of around about, near enough, 500,000. Okay, so every single one of these blocks inside this square represents one single subscriber. So for example, we've got Jim down the road, he subscribed a year ago. We have got Timmy from Lithuania who subscribed last week. Every single block here represents an individual subscriber, and if we just zoom out, as you can see, it's a huge, absolutely massive quantity of people. I mean, look, we are still zooming out there. It's so difficult to get your head around. I cannot visualize 500,000 things, and I've chucked them all into this world, and you know what? I'm still struggling. It is a astronomically large number of people, and I have no idea what to say when I'm met with this. To think that this many people have watched my videos in the past and gone, you know what? That's a decent video. That deserves a subscribe. Really is mind-blowing to me, and I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has supported me over the past 2.5 years. It's been one of the best experiences of my life. YouTube has been such a positive thing for me. I'm absolutely loving every single second of it, and I really do hope I can continue to produce decent content for you guys so that you find it entertaining, give you something to watch in the evenings and all that sort of thing. So I'm going to try my best to keep it up, keep the videos coming out, and keeping you guys entertained. But one thing I do want to say is that if you do want to take a closer look at this world, maybe hop inside and just see how many 500,000 blocks is, then of course there will be a world download down in the description. But anyway, I think it's about time we crack on with that Hermitcraft episode, don't ya? So I rode the Great Rail all the way over here. We are now over by the base. So that is the base mountain that you can see up there. But we aren't going to be working on that today. We are instead going to be working in the swamp area. Now that might sound like a really strange decision because obviously the swamp area isn't exactly the prettiest place on the server, but the reason that we actually came over here and the reason that I like this spot is because we've got a large open space to work with in this central bit. Now we aren't going to be doing anything on the ground, instead we are going to be working up in the sky, because I am going to be creating a hostile mob spawner. That is right, ladies and gents, I want to be getting those bones, that creeper dust, I want to be getting that zombie flesh. Even though there's no use for it, it's always good to gather up all those sorts of items. So yeah, we are going to be building the same mob spawner that I built on Hermitcraft Series 2, simply because it served me pretty well, it doesn't use that many resources, and of course I know how to build it off by heart. So I'm going to hop into a redstone testing world, and I'll show you the design. I'm sure a lot of you recognize this thing, but this is the design that we are going to be using. It is a big box with a little bit of redstone on the sides, and I have actually done a tutorial on this design, and of course a link to that can be found in the description as well, or should I say it should be in the description. There's quite a lot of stuff for me to remember to put down in the description for today's episode, so hopefully I'll remember it all, because as you know, I'm pretty bad at forgetting links down in the description, but it should all be there, and the design itself really is quite good. It is pretty decent. It gathered up tons upon tons of drops in the previous season of Hermitcraft, so I can't understand why it won't do the same thing again. I'm sure it'll be absolutely perfect, and will gather up loads and loads of resources. So like I say, if you want to know how to build it, then there will be a link down in the description, but now it's time for me to start building it on the Hermitcraft server. So as you can see here, we have done a little bit of work now. We have got all of the teeth in place for the mob spawner, and I just want to point out that we're going to be doing this slightly differently to the one that is in the tutorial. As you can see, there is one block in the middle. It is one block centralized, so we've got 3 blocks in between each one of the platforms, and that is just because in the future, we are going to be doing a little bit of a project, and it requires this to be central. We need it to be in the center, otherwise I would go nuts. You guys will probably go nuts in the comments section when it all turns out to be misaligned and off by 1 block. It would drive me crazy, and I don't want anything like that, so I decided to think ahead a little bit. But the next thing that I want to say is we are actually improving the efficiency right now by adding in these areas. So you may notice that this area that I'm doing right now isn't actually on the original build, and that caused the bottom layer of the mob spawner to be a little bit inefficient. Because basically what was happening is some of the light was coming into the bottom layer, and it meant that some of it was lit up, meaning that actually no mobs were spawning, which is a little bit of a problem. So what I'm doing is I'm adding a little bit of a wall down across the bottom of the mob spawner that should prevent as much light coming in. It's not going to stop it entirely, but it should do a decent job. So I'm going to do all of this, and then I'll catch you guys in a little bit. The good news is the first platform of our hostile mob farm is now in place. Here it is. It is looking big. It is looking like the perfect area for mobs to be spawning. And you know what? It didn't actually take that long. It only took around about 20 to 25 minutes, which really isn't too bad. It just involved quite a bit of block placing. And that brings me on to the bad news. And that is the fact that I have already run out of iron. You see all of these open spots here? They were filled with iron blocks. We have used all of them. All of them are gone just on this little area here. So I think I'm going to be making plenty of trips over to the Iron Titan. But anyway, what I think I should do now is try my best to avoid any lily pads and hop down to the bottom so that we can see what this thing looks like from down below. So here we go. We are dropping down now, and sploosh! We are straight down into the water. Let's look up. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. I mean, it looks like a big iron blob, but that's sort of what I was expecting. I'm pretty happy with that. That's nice. I feel the need to mention this because I get comments like this every single episode. The reason that I'm building the entire farm out of iron blocks, which would seem absolutely ridiculous in any other setting, is because we have got this ridiculous iron farm called the Iron Titan by Tango Tech, and it produces iron by the bucket load. I mean, take a look at this thing. We have got metric butt tons of iron. Seriously, it is absolutely ridiculous. I don't even know what to say. So I could go through this like no tomorrow, and I probably wouldn't be able to spend it fast enough. I was just wondering why I keep suffering from lag spikes and also slightly bad frame rates. Not awful, it's fairly smooth, but it's not brilliant, and that's when I remembered I'm playing on 32 chunk render distance in an amplified world. That is a recipe for disaster, isn't it? Layer number 1 is now all finished. We have got all the dispensers in, we have got the 2-high wall, as well as the redstone going around the outside. The only thing that we don't have is we don't have the water bucket inside the dispensers, and that is quite simply because if you by accident activate all of the redstone, all of the water spreads out, you get pushed off the platform and fall down the middle, and that is never a particularly good thing, so I do all of the water buckets at the end once all of it is done. But anyway, that is layer number 1 complete. We've only got 4 more to go. The second layer of the mob spawner is now in place. As you can see, we have got the spawning platform, we got the dispensers, the walls, and also all of the redstone as well on the outside. So that is all done and dusted, and I can confirm that it actually took a little bit less time than the previous layer, and I don't know why that is, but sometimes in Minecraft, you just get into the swing of things. You get into the swing of things, you find yourself a pattern, you chuck down all of the blocks nice and quickly and confidently because you know exactly where they need to go, and you get the build done much quicker than beforehand. So hopefully that continues on right the way up to the top of the build until we get to layer number 5, and then I can get it all done and dusted within around about 5 minutes. That would be really very nice indeed, but I can't see that happening simply because this is a relatively manual labor type build. There's just a lot of block placing, there isn't a whole bunch of technical stuff, it's just a workhorse of a build. You just have to place in all the blocks, grit your teeth, and get on with it. And that's what I'm doing now, and as you can see, we are now 2/5 of the way done, which isn't particularly bad, okay? We have got the early stages done, we just have to add all of the layers on top. And there is one thing actually that I am going to point out. This is a top tip for anyone who is building this. light it up as you go along. The last thing that you want is mobs spawning inside your mob spawner while you're still building it. I mean, I've had some near-death experiences. I've had zombies, skeletons, creepers all spawning inside here, all trying to kill me. So it is one thing to watch out for. Make sure you light it up as you build, because otherwise you run into some problems. I've just had a little bit of a brainwave here. Each one of the layers for this build is exactly the same. So if I keep doing these progress updates, it is going to get fairly boring for all of you, because I'm going to repeat the same information every time. I'll probably say something along the lines of, layer number 3 is now done. Look, the spawning platform is here. We've got the dispensers, the walls, and the redstone. Layer number 4 is now done. The floor, the wall, the redstone, etc, etc. And that will make for a very repetitive video indeed. So instead, what I thought we could do is bring back the third-person time-lapse. That is right, I'm going to complete this build in a time-lapse. It's probably going to be around about 2 minutes long. If you don't want to watch it, then of course you can skip ahead. If you do want to watch it, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. And finally, I can safely say that we have finished all of the layers of the mob spawner. That feels very, very good indeed to say that. It took around about an hour or so just to do all of those layers there, which actually isn't that bad. In total, I've probably spent around about 2.5 hours on this episode already, which, like I say, that is pretty good going. That is always good stuff, and I'm really enjoying myself because I love building big projects like this. I know they're time consuming, and I know that often they're fairly repetitive. We have just done the same thing 5 times over, but there's just something oddly fun about them. I guess it's just what I enjoy in Minecraft is big projects and automation, and that we're working on both of those in today's episode. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about all of this, but let us just take a moment to look down the middle here. Look at all of those teeth. Look at all the teeth of all of the layers here. Just imagine when we kick all of the water in, the mobs are going to be flowing off the edges, falling down into the bottom, right the way down the middle there, hitting all the hoppers, and we are going to be getting all of their glorious item drops. I'm excited for that moment, but we aren't quite there yet. We still have a few things that need doing. We need to do all of the redstone, but most importantly, we need to put a roof on this thing. It is going to be completely pointless if we leave it in its current state. Nothing is going to spawn, so we need to place a roof on top of this. Now, I've brought a bunch of stone slabs along, and I guess that is the block that we're going to be using, because otherwise, mobs will be able to spawn on top of it, and once again, that will render the whole thing entirely useless, because we will be using up most of our spawning spaces from all of the mobs on the top. So anyway, I'm going to crack on, build this entire roof, and then I'll catch you guys in a little bit. All of the half slabs are now in. The roof of the mob spawner has been finished. And would you take a look at this place? We have got a large open area here. I can't really run around at the minute. Give me a second. I'll munch away on some steak and then we'll prance about up at the top. yeah, this place looks great. It goes right the way from edge to edge. We have got half slabs right the way across, which means that obviously no mobs are going to be spawning up on top of here. They are all going to be spawning down beneath inside the mob spawner, which is of course what we want. If we didn't want that, then this build would be very, very silly indeed. But before we head down there, we are going to close up this hole. I thought I would just take a moment to say, check out how cool the scenery is from up here. We have got a brilliant view. We might as well make the most of this because we aren't going to be getting this again. I'm not going to be spending much time on top of the mob spawner. So this place, it looks brilliant, doesn't it? We have got fantastic views. There is loads of cool scenery about. One of the best things about playing on an amplified world is the crazy landscapes that you get. It is a very, very good thing indeed. And if you are considering starting up an amplified world, I would highly suggest it. Obviously, we've been playing on this for a while now, and I was a little bit worried originally when we started up on Amplified. But you know what? It's been an absolutely brilliant experience, and it's just something completely different. It's a completely different way of playing survival Minecraft. There's a lot more to think about. There's higher risks. It's great fun. So that's just a little positive for Amplified Worlds. But anyway, let's pop down into the mob spawner itself. Hopefully there's no mobs inside here just yet, otherwise we're going to have a bit of a problem. But let's close up the roof right the way across there. That is now done, and we'll take out our little staircase. So here we are, inside the mob spawner. Oh boy, I can't wait to get this thing up and running. So for those of you who don't know, this mob spawner actually works on a timer-based system. So over here we've got a hopper clock, or the beginnings of a hopper clock, and what will essentially happen is that the water will be pushed outwards and then retracted periodically, meaning the water comes on, all of the mobs are flushed out of the system, and then the water is pulled back, allowing more mobs to spawn, and you just repeat that cycle over and over again. Now this is like the mainframe system part here, or at least some of it. I don't actually have any pistons on me, which is why none of those are in place, but this redstone will go back and forth, meaning that these hoppers will be toggled, and that is the hopper clock system, and then the redstone just runs off and out into all of the redstone torches that are going to be taking that signal up to all of these lines of redstone, which are going to be activating all of the dispensers, which are going to be putting out all of the water. It's a relatively simple system, and it's extremely effective. So all of the redstone wiring is done, and I'll take you up there in a couple of seconds just to show you around, see what all of the circuits are up to, but I just wanted to show you it from this angle here, because we're probably never going to see this again. This is what it looks like with the insides lit up, and I tell you what, this really makes me want to do an inside lighting system, a way of actually turning it all off, but sadly, I can't actually think of a way to do that, because of course we would have to use redstone, and water and redstone don't particularly mix very well. So for the minute, this just open mouth lighting that we have going on there, it looks absolutely awesome. It is a seriously cool look in the night sky, and it's going to be a real shame when all of that is completely blackened out, but I suppose if it's not like that, then it won't work, and that will sort of defeat the object of the build. The whole point of this thing isn't to be good looking, it is there quite simply to spawn lots and lots of mobs, and I'm sure it will do that just fine. As I just mentioned, the redstone has now been completed, so this is all of it. It may not look familiar, and that is because I've had to make a few little changes, and I've changed up a few little bits and pieces just for looks. Essentially, I've gone all sorts of vain on my build, and I've made sure that everything is looking correct and symmetrical. So this block here, this is the central block of the build, and a hopper timer, unfortunately, doesn't have a central block. So this one is slightly off-centered, but I've tried my best to make that out of view. It's way back, almost flush with the build itself, and all the stuff on the outside, as you can see, matches up. So you have redstone here and here, then we have repeaters on either side, then we have the monostables, then the redstone, and pretty much everything else is completely symmetrical. It is only the hopper timer that is actually slightly off-centered. But yes, I have got everything in place. We've got the comparators, the hoppers, we have the sticky pistons, the redstone block. All I have to do now is chuck the items into the hoppers, but we aren't going to be doing that just yet, and that is because we have got to put all of the water into all of the dispensers. This is something that I've been putting off for the entire video just because it's fairly long and boring, but it has to be done, so I'm going to gather up a ton of buckets and then I'll fill in all of the dispensers. All of the water buckets have now gone into all of the dispensers, so the final thing that is left to do now is we need to chuck the items into the hoppers. So here we go. This will kickstart the hopper clock, and we should begin to see the water popping out. Okay, so here we go. My fingers are crossed. Your fingers should be crossed as well. When this redstone block moves, it will trigger this monostable circuit, and we should get water coming through on one of the levels. Has that not worked? It doesn't look to me like that has worked. Why has that not worked? Oh no, it doesn't look like it's working. I might have to look into this one, guys. So for some bizarre reason, I decided to do 2 outputs from our hopper clock here, which is entirely unnecessary. It means that each side was activating independently, so one side would activate and then stay on, the other side would activate, then stay on, then the other side would activate, turn off, and then the other side would activate and turn off, which was fairly pointless. So I think I might have fixed it all up by now, and that means we just need to place in half as many items, but it should begin to work. Okay, so when this toggles back over, everything should jump into life, and we should get water going right the way across. Oh boy! Yes, and we've got mobs! We have mobs flowing out of the system. Good stuff. Excellent stuff. Now, obviously, the water is going to stay out, and then it will go back across, and then it will all be retracted. We have ourselves the open area so mobs can spawn, but also some water will go across as well, pushing some of the mobs off. This is brilliant. It's working. The mob spawner is functional. Look, let's watch. Let's see if any mobs fall off. Yes, it's already working. And currently, probably only about half of the mob spawner is actually active. And that is because we are quite nearby to all of the spawning spaces. So that is extremely promising. Oh, my heart was in my mouth for a little while there. But it looks like it's all come together. And the mob spawner is fully functional. Excellent, excellent news. How good is that? We have got a functional mob spawner on the Hermitcraft server, and we managed to do it all in one day, which I would say is very, very impressive indeed. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I've got time for today. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button, and if you really loved it, then make sure to subscribe. But thanks for watching, guys. This has been Mumbo, and I'm out. I'll see you later.